Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And we're starting off Classics Week, where we're talking about some popular, beloved, older records that I don't normally talk about on this channel. Taking sort of a break, a little bit of a break from the new stuff. Talking about some older stuff. We're just going to kick things off with Madvillain Madvillainy. Madvillain is the infamous pairing of MC/producer MF Doom and producer/MC Madlib. And the one single album they released together in 2004 just happens to be pretty much the most celebrated abstract hip-hop album ever. This LP has proven to be pretty influential to a lot of upcoming MCs, lyrically, stylistically, conceptually, instrumentally, but even if this album influenced no one, it would still be an extremely potent, unique, creative, strange, and pretty oddball hip-hop album with a strong personality. Let me list off a handful of things that sort of make this album stick out to me. For one, the continual, non-stop flows that MF Doom throws out on one track after another, passing, for the most part, on choruses on many of these songs, which are pretty brief. And the flow that he uses on this album, as well as almost every other project MF Doom has ever been involved in, is pretty hypnotic, and I feel like what also kind of makes that sort of entrancing characteristic come out is definitely Doom's very dark, deep, and grimy voice. Usually MCs that repeat a flow this often get a lot of shit and just, don't get any respect. And I feel like MF Doom has taken this thing that it would usually be a negative aspect and turned it into a kind of unique characteristic. When he spits, he goes pretty much 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, rest, like an 8th note rest, or even like a 16th note rest, and then goes back into it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. He can use a variety of different rhythms depending on what the words are that he's saying in a given line, but he typically likes to leave an 8th or a 16th worth of space in between one line and another line. I'm not exactly sure why. Of course, there are moments on this album and on other albums where he'll totally skip over that beat. He'll sort of bring the lines a little closer together, sort of erase that space entirely. But he works in this meter so often that if any other MC uses it, it's instantly recognizable as oh, that sounds like MF Doom. Now, if there's anything that sets MF Doom apart from other MCs besides his flow, his very gravelly voice, or his mask, it is definitely his lyricism. MF Doom does rap about himself like other MCs do, but when he does it, he tends to kind of do it from the standpoint of a narrator. He'll say, Doom does this, Doom does that, he does this, he does that. And of course, as he's referring to himself, he raps about his rapping ability, writing rhymes off Heinekens, and his villainous deeds, and the violence and the shenanigans that occur within his verses. It's all very, very cartoony. To me, kind of in a Wu-Tang-like way, but really even going further down that road to the point where I feel like I'm reading a comic book or like watching a Saturday morning cartoon, but like for adults. A Saturday morning cartoon featuring superheroes that kind of catch themselves in sexual situations or have no moral compasses whatsoever. And of course, this vibe is helped along with sound clips that are very animated, either sound clips that are kind of talking about this duo of villains that's sort of being edited to make it sound like the guy talking about these villains is in fact referring to Madlib and Doom, or even some clips from the Fantastic Four show referring to Doctor Doom, who obviously MF Doom sort of, takes his character from. And even though this album does feature a plethora of sound clips like this, and that certainly does paint a picture, nothing sort of brings the image into fruition more than MF Doom's lyrics. Like on the track Curls, where MF Doom opens with this line how he gets money like curls and everyone else is squirrels trying to get a nut in his mad world. Or the song Meat Grinder, where MF Doom goes through these extremely coded bars about this strange encounter he has with a schizo prostitute who's got a little bit of a lisp. Or the song America's Most Blended, where he is nominated for rolling the best L's, and they wondered how he dealt with stress so well. Fancy Clown kind of details a breakup, MF Doom style. Strange Ways to me kind of highlights some extreme societal hypocrisies. And the ultra abstract Shadows of Tomorrow, which actually has Madlib rapping as Quasimodo over the track, is really one of my favorite songs on this entire LP. It's just such a lyrical attack on the concept of time. It's sort of mind-melting. Like any other hip-hop album, there's a strong element of egoism here, but it's for this totally dark, weird, made-up character that MF Doom puts so much effort into that he seems, almost real. Lyrics are, to me, just one half of the magic of this LP. I mean, Madlib's production is just freaking awesome all over this album. There are a lot of jazz samples, a lot of soul samples, stuff that you would expect to be in hip-hop generally, but in hip-hop especially if you're a huge fan of many artists on the Stones Throw Records roster. But still, despite the fact that Madlib does pull from genres that are typically associated with hip-hop samples, what he does with a lot of the snippets of sound that he takes and incorporates into his beats is just so freaking off the radar. Like the track Accordion, where you get like really a trademark track off of this LP. I mean, one of the major ones that everyone remembers mostly because of its quietly pulsating accordion sample humming away, bringing a really interesting sound to a hip-hop beat that wouldn't normally be there. I love the sharp little rhythm behind this accordion sample and the synth bass line that comes in around 50 seconds in. Awesome. The beat has a ton of personality, but it's also kind of understated, a lot like MF Doom himself. What I love even more than that, though, is the sinister, upright bass line on the track Meat Grinder, and that wailing, sort of strange reverb guitar that pops in occasionally, and that sharp rhythm guitar and the bass line on the track America's Most Blunted, and the drums on that thing so crispy. And the track Curls, the rolling vibraphone melodies on that track, it's just so amazingly bubbly and fun. And the way the organ pops in later into the track, I mean, it feels like I'm listening to some kind of radio drama from the 1950s or something like that. It's just another awesome sonic addition to this track that just kind of hits you with one sound after another. These songs on this LP, they're very, very linear. They don't loop around from a verse to a chorus to a verse once again. For the most part, a lot of the songs on here just kind of continue onward on this one groove and kind of hit you with one new little piece of instrumentation, one new sample, one new little vocal snippet, one new kind of change or just sort of ad-lib that MF Doom throws in. Oh yeah. I love the quickly picked guitar groove on the track Shadow of Tomorrow, the watery synths on the track Figaro, and the somewhat muddy, soulful vocal sample on the track Strange Ways. And I like the way the strings, as they're building up on the hook on that track, I mean, how they just sort of rise up. It's quite beautiful. Just so many unique freaking sounds on this album. And even the tunes on here that have beats that are a little more straightforward and I guess kind of, I guess I would say conforming to a usual hip-hop sound, like the song Fancy Clown, even that has some vocal samples that are cut up in a really interesting way. The samples specifically come from the track ZZ Hill's That Ain't the Way You Make Love, and the way his vocals are just kind of separated throughout that track, it's just refreshing. However, this LP is not just just, rapid fire non-stop raps over Madlib beats. There are a few tracks on here that are instrumental, and believe me, they are completely fine and awesome as is. There's a very playful moment on here with the track Bistro, where MF Doom is kind of, sort of inviting guests who are here for the album listening. It actually kind of reminds me of something that Biggie Smalls had already done, although I'm sure the reference is completely intentional. And there are a few vocal guests on here as well. MED appears on a track. Wild Child takes up an entire song just on his own, and Stacey Epps kind of finds herself singing in a very heavenly way through the murky darkness of Madlib's MPC. Though these tracks do break away from pretty much everybody's favorite moments on this LP, where MF Doom and Madlib are doing just awesome collaborative work together, they do break up the monotony of the album. They do kind of become posts of this album's progression. It's like, oh, okay, I'm this far. I'm sort of gone through this phase of the album. Let's go into the next phase. Because there are quite a few tracks here, 22 to be exact. And it's sort of like these instrumentals and sort of extra vocal guests act as separators among all these little bits, all these brief songs. Because even though there are 22 songs on here, this album doesn't even break 50 minutes. But even though the tracks on here are kind of short, they're brief, they hit you with a lot of lyrical ideas and references that on the surface may appear to be very disconnected, this album is anything but unfocused. I would actually argue instead that this album is extremely sharp, creative, and refreshing. I think because the ideas on here are so awesome, MF Doom can present them in this kind of rapid fire way, and they still stick. As we sort of distance ourselves from the release of this album more and more, I feel like Madvillainy proves itself to be kind of a game changer when it comes to abstract and underground hip-hop. A subgenre that's been growing and growing and growing ever since the internet has been kind of leveling the playing field in terms of who can and cannot influence hip-hop culture. Will there ever be another Madvillain album? I'm not really sure, and the fact that we are just only having this LP to listen to, I feel like only builds up the intensity of love that people have for this album even more. I'm just gonna leave it at that. If you haven't listened to this album, do check it out. Anthony Fantano, Madvillain, forever.